topic. So very good afternoon to all of you and very good evening to some of you who have joined me from different time zones and locations. So in the previous class, we were looking and we emphasized more importance on the oral language in Montessori education, wherein we tried and worked on enriching the child's vocabulary through different exercises, collecting the objects from the environment, getting the sensorial lessons accordingly, and slowly moving into picture cards that we call it as classified. And then we learned about nomenclatures and the social relations. So this was related to our enrichment of vocabulary. To support the language, we also got into some more exercises which helped the child to train their language. So that was by storytelling, reading a story, by singing songs. It could be rhymes, jingles, or even poems. And then getting into theater and role plays, dramatics, how it played a real importance in the child's learning, the skill sets of having a good listening capability. From there we got into news events, and we learned about how important the event boards are, so that we display everything in a nice way so that the child gets the visual perception to understand what's actually happening. So along with that, we also initiated a book corner that you need to set it up in any of the corners of your classes, wherein the child can pick up any of the books and they can start reading. So reading and is also very essential, so that the child would also get an understanding of a quick understanding capability of the comprehensions and stuff like that. So book corner was also important. Followed by that, we also got into question games, wherein we introduced the parts of speech. We also had some of the games which also included various other parts. It could be verbs, it could be adjectives, or it could be prepositions. So each one of you had chosen a part of the language exercises as to model it, to present it. And few of you also given me a detailed, what I could say, the lesson plan. It was really nice when I was just reading through. And students who are very new, you can also get the glimpse of how you need to write and other things. Few students have even maintained lining. They have used different colors to actually highlight it. It's absolutely good, So don't get into the fancier part of it, but get into what needs to be written, like what is the name of the exercise, the presentation, the purpose, and what is the age, how you're going to be doing, what are the materials required, is something which actually suffices, right? So in today's class, we're going to be stepping into, after seeing all of this, we would be stepping into something called as a second part of our language development, and that's towards writing. Okay, so yes, now we're stepping into the written language.
అందుకోసమనే అదే చేస్తాను.
Yes. So yes, you can keep your notebooks ready. So we're going to be learning a little bit more on the writing language. So far we learned about the oral language or the speaking skills. From here, we would be seeing why is writing important for our preschoolers. There are a lot of different roles. There is a lot of advantages over here, but I would say writing is the fundamental skill, or it is a crucial role that has been played in every child's overall development. The child needs to know how a letter is formed, how words can be written, how to go even beyond. See, writing is not only like you pick up your pen and start writing on the paper. No, it is beyond that. What it is beyond? See, any time that the child is holding a pen or a pencil or a crayon, the first thing that we as teachers or parents, we would educate them is to hold the pencil correctly. When the child is able to hold it rightfully and write accordingly in a very fine way, we are trying to encourage the development of the fine motor skills of the child, right? And we also tell them how much of a pressure that they need to be putting in. And when the child is writing, you will not be quiet, right? You will also say, okay, take your stroke up, then try to loop, then come down. You're also trying to communicate how that letter is being formed. So the teacher or the parent is continuously speaking sometimes. So thereby, the child is also working on the language skills. And every child's writing is so different. There is a creativity, the child will be able to work on it. Now, if your child knows how to construct a letter in a fine way, what a confidence that the child would get. He would know, yes, I'm able to do all of that. Now, can I give pencil and paper right at the beginning? It's very difficult for me, right? So what do I do over here? Much before I give anything for the child to write, I need to work on something called as the pre-writing skill ability. So what as a teacher I'm going to be working is my child ready to write? When I say, is the child ready to write, I would search on two aspects. One is on the physical ability. Is the child got enough skill? Is the child got enough strength to actually write? That's the physical strength. The second thing I would be looking is like, is the child mentally prepared to write? Most of the children, when it comes down to writing, they find it very hard, isn't it? They find it, they don't want to write at all. When you say, okay, children, it is a writing period, most of them, they actually tend to run off. Multiple reasons, because they are not confident enough to write. Sometimes they don't know how to write. Sometimes they find it very difficult because they don't know the skill, or it can actually take a lot of effort on their finger muscles. So depending on all of this is what the teachers can actually enable. Please note down the first pre-writing skill that you're going to be working for children before even they get to understand to hold a pencil properly is to scribble. Okay, please write down. So even scribbling becomes your first art exercise. But even in our language, the writing essentiality is scribbling. So what do we do here in scribbling? You give them a piece of paper and you give them their choice of color pencil or a crayon or an oil pastel, and you just let the child to scribble. Okay. So when the child is scribbling, what are the things that you will be able to work? What are the things that you'll be able to observe?
The tripod skill.
Gripping.
Yes.
Gripping, ma'am. Gripping.
Very good. You'll be looking at multiple.
Hold the pencil. How to hold, ma'am.
Yeah, how
Holding the
child holding.
How holding the pencil or crayons.
Very good.
hand-eye coordination.
Hand-eye coordination. Wonderful. I would see
Pencil
if
grip.
somebody said about the grip, I will first check, is it a firm grip or is it a weak grip? Some children put a lot of pressure when they're actually writing. That is also not required for us. They have to apply the rightful amount of pressure, or they have to get the right grip. They can't hold the pencil really tight also. That is also bad. Correct? What about the weak grip? They won't be able to write. So where do I segregate all of this? Does it come under my motor skill development? My fine motor skill development? So what as a teacher you will have to observe is, you have to observe your scribbling into multiple patterns. You see whether the child is able to work on the motor skill. So you check your grip and hand strength. The second thing what you're going to do over here is like, check whether the scribbles are random or do they follow something. Is there a control? Does the child have some control? Is the child doing it in a coordinated way, the scribble? This is also important. Is there any control and coordination in the child is scribbling? Next, what are you going to do? The dominant hand. Is the child scribbling in left hand or is the child scribbling in the right hand? What is the child's dominant hand? You need to first see this. Okay. Next, what you do is like, now say suppose in case if you notice the scribble and there are, first one is like random scribbles. When I say random scribbles, what do I say? Uncontrolled. The child can
Uncontrolled.
wherever they want. What about the arm movements? Large arm movements? Correct? Their arm movements are really large. So there are no patterns formed. I can't see a straight line. I can't see a slanting line. I can't see circular patterns. There is no proper pattern. Now, this is called the early stage. So probably toddlers, when I go to a toddler class and I give them a sheet of paper, this is how they would probably scribble. From there, if I give them little guidance and then I check, the random scribbles become controlled scribbles. Please note down. The second kind of a scribbling pattern is a controlled scribble. First one is random. Okay, so how they scribble randomly with large arm movements. Then a little bit more controlled. When I say controlled, what happens? The movements, my back and forth movements are controlled. So that's the reason we give them coloring. Yes or no? We give them coloring because it will have very fine, I could say, controlled scribbles. There are a lot of good motions that actually I use. And the stroke is repetition. Or I could say it is repeating. I either go up and down or I go right to left. The teacher tells them to control it in a proper way. Now I would give them some lines, dots. And I ask them to trace on that line, or I ask them to trace on that dot. or I can give them a shape. Then I ask the children to trace on that shape. Now, whenever I work on tracing on it, it is called intentional scribble. Please note down, it is called the intentional scribbles. Is everybody with me? Can you hear me?